Hi, you're back here with Lainy at Achievement for All, and I'm joined today by Laura Stagg, who does a lot of work for the charity and is an achievement coach in quite a lot of our schools. And Laura's joined me to talk about stress. So hello, Laura, welcome. Nice to see you. So we're going to talk about stress, but maybe first of all, could you just talk us through the types of stress? Like, what is stress? What do we talk about when we're talking about stress?
Yeah, hi Lainey, thanks. So we've probably all used the word stress quite a lot over the last few months, and we certainly all experienced different types of stress in our lifetime. So when we talk about the different types of stress, we've got positive stress, tolerable stress, and toxic stress. So when we think about positive stress, these are usually things that are quite short-lived. So it could be an interview you're preparing for, a promotion at work, finding a new role, maybe adapting to new technology during the pandemic. Any of those things are quite short-lived, but they're always buffered by a consistent, supportive adult as well. And that's a really important part of positive stress. You've got someone around who's going to empathise, understand, support you, be your champion, and help you through that time. When we're thinking about tolerable stress, these are situations that are a bit more prolonged. So it could be bereavement, a serious injury, or a serious illness. So it's going to be quite likely that a lot of us sadly will have experienced that over the last few months, and certainly more than usual. And whilst those times are really hard, again, if we have that supportive, consistent, reliable adults or caregivers in our lives, that actually makes that something that we can handle as humans and manage and find our way through. Then we've got the third type, which is toxic stress, and that's somewhere that we don't really want to be at all. This is really prolonged stress. So it could be trauma, it could be abuse, domestic violence, any of those really awful things that are happening day in, day out, and people aren't really getting a break from. And unlike positive and tolerable stress, there isn't that supportive, reliable adult or caregiver in that person's life to help them, support them through that time and to buffer that really tricky time for them. And toxic stress is really where we don't want to be at all, especially for our young people.
It's interesting because as you're talking, actually there's some people that might have all three of those at the same time, because we're in a pandemic, they might be losing loved ones, or loved ones might be sick, and they might be in that toxic environment. So is that right? Is it possible that you could be experiencing all of that going on at the same time, and it kind of builds like a pressure cooker, I guess? Is that kind of what's happening to some people, do you think?
Absolutely. So having those layers of different situations going on could be really tricky. And again, it's really dependent on having that consistent person in your life that moves it more to a tolerable or a positive stress. That's the real difference, and for how long it goes on for as well. But absolutely, all three layers of those things going on, and the effects of that obviously are hugely detrimental.
Yeah. So lots of people are going to be working with, young people and children going back to school soon, who could have experienced any or all of these things that we're talking about. What can people do to help? And I'm guessing that some of those adults going back and working with the children, they're going to have experienced a lot of this themselves. So there's going to be quite a difficult transaction between adults and children, I would have thought. What can we do to sort of help that, do you think?
So a few things. I think first of all, thinking about your staff and yourselves. So I think a really important thing in trying to support people's stress is making sure that you're well first as well. So making sure you're fit to lead, leading a classroom of children or a whole school of staff, or even just leading yourself through the day. I think that's really important. So making sure that you're making time for your own well-being, and you've got that person in your life who's buffering any stress responses that might be happening. Making sure you're using meta-emotion philosophy, that awareness of your own emotions and the emotions in others is really important. So just understanding how you're feeling is really important. So that's my first piece of advice really, is that you just need to think about yourself first and be a selfless leader. Put your oxygen mask on first before helping others. And
interesting, then, John was talking about the oxygen mask, and I said that was a great analogy, because you can imagine that, can't you? Because they always tell you that on a plane. But I think you've also said something else there, like fit to lead, and I think that's a really great phrase too, that you just need to bear in mind you do need to be fit, don't you, before you can lead others. It's a great expression.
Yeah, absolutely. I think fit to lead is a really important thing for all leaders. And when I say leaders, I mean classroom teachers as well, because we're leading, classes of children. So everyone's a leader important. But yeah, definitely being fit to lead physically, emotionally, mentally, really making sure that you're taking that time for yourself. And then once those oxygen masks are firmly on and we're feeling in a good place, we've got that self-regulation, then we can help co-regulate. So we're not mental health professionals, we're not counsellors, we're here mainly for educating children, but part of that is the well-being. And as I kept saying during that conversation about the different types of stress, the most important thing we can do is be that reliable, consistent, supportive adult. So welcoming the children back in, making sure our own self-regulation is helping them co-regulate, listening to them, empathising with them, creating consistent responses to their emotions and behaviours as well. Straight away, that is huge. And then also utilising other professionals that you have, using multiple disciplinary teams that you can interact with, getting counselling support coming in, using all the services available, not thinking that you have to fix all the things, but definitely being that consistent, reliable adult.
Yeah, and that comes out, as you know, I do quite a lot of work in post-16 and within colleges and the older age group. And one of the things the teachers often say to me is, I'm not a mental health expert. I'm not trained for this. And you're absolutely right in what you've just said. I think sort of worth highlighting here that you don't have to go it alone, do you? You can go to the experts, you can get outside help, and you can rely on some other people that do have that experience. And I think sometimes teachers feel like they have to be everything in the classroom, don't they? They kind of feel the pressures on them to perform all of those roles, but actually going outside and getting some help and support and even advice is always really useful, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So making sure you've got really clear procedures in your school, I guess, in terms of policies as well.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that we're going to have to kind of look at those policies again now at the moment, because we've probably got processes and procedures that are okay in the everyday, but maybe we need to kind of revisit in light of the fact that people are coming back from a very different world to the one that they left, aren't they?
I lost you there a bit, I think.
I was just saying that, sort of just to look at our policies and procedures, because actually when people are coming back, they're coming back from a very different place and a different world to the world where they went in, to lockdown, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah, that's really important. So you might need to think about the different interventions that are running, the different policies, behaviour policies in particular, looking at how that needs to be different maybe now. Thinking about, I guess, attendance is going to be really high priority for a lot of schools, but I think the guidance so far has been sort of gentle, reconnecting with families, getting people on board again, understanding anxieties as well. But yeah, definitely revisiting policies is really important, and making sure that people understand how to make that provision available.
Yeah. Now, I saw some really interesting information recently, and I watched one of those brilliant TED Talks because I love those. And I saw a lady talking about positive stress. So that was really interesting. Do you want to tell us about positive stresses? Because I find this fascinating.
Yes, so very often when we hear the word stress, we have negative connotations around it. But actually, positive stress can be a really positive thing, as the name kind of alludes to. So as I said earlier, it's short-lived and buffered by that support. But actually, by going for an interview, or by maybe having a test, or by having to learn some new technical skills using Zoom or Teams or anything like that, we're actually building our resilience and our confidence and our self-esteem. So I think it's really important for us not to go back into our new settings and educational establishments thinking, my goodness, what are we going to have to deal with now after this pandemic? Thinking about all the bereavements and trauma and injuries, but actually also what positive things might have come out of it as well. So are children better self-starters now because they've had to organise their week? Have they got more resilience in terms of being able to maybe work through problems at home, not being able to see their friends as they were? Has their self-esteem improved because they've been able to master using a new app that they never knew before? And that goes for staff as well. Maybe you've got some staff who weren't so confident before with things and developed resilience. Maybe it's families who've got better resilience as well. So I think it's really important to take a little bit of stock and actually look at what positive things we can get from this. What are our gains? So maybe using a leadership model such as stop, start, continue, and looking what has our community gained from this, what can we learn from this, and what do we take forward. So I know some schools, for example, have started virtual assemblies once a week where they all come together on Zoom and have a virtual assembly. And I think maybe going forwards, that's a lovely idea to use, maybe to get parents and carers involved who are working. So I think there's loads of things to learn that we can take from maybe being in this positive stress that we've all been in for the last few months, and finding out what skills have the children and the staff and the parents and carers have developed.
Yeah, that's a great sort of positive note to end on. So if people are looking for extra information or advice or specialist help, where can they go?
General stress or wider?
Sorry, I think you cut out then. Did you ask me a question?
Yeah. The stress in particular, or wider really?
Yeah, so if they're struggling with their own stress, or if they're struggling trying to support the children with stress, and just their overall kind of, I suppose, well-being as they come back, are there places they can go to and look for additional help and advice, I guess? Yeah,
absolutely. So obviously I would champion our programs in terms of being able to have that support, the resources and a coaching as well. But there is an awful lot out there at the moment. So Winston's Wish are doing a lot of support for bereavement. They're currently offering free online bereavement training for staff, which is a really good idea, I think. Young Minds is a great organisation as well that really gives some practical resources, but also some theory and research as well. And then I think also, although there's a lot of guidance out there for schools at the moment in terms of reopening, and they're having to read a lot of those guidance, maybe going back to some of the policy guidance around what a wellbeing policy should be, and just do a little audit of what do they say is a bare minimum we should have, and actually what do we think as a school we should have, and just making sure there aren't any gaps there, I think is really useful.
Yeah, okay, that's brilliant. Thank you, Laura. And yes, as Laura said, we champion obviously Achievement for All, and we've got a whole wellbeing programme and an audit and a review that if you want to talk to us about, please do contact us. When we come to the end of this, you'll see a couple of little links. If you found value in what we've been talking about and been interested in what we've talked about today, then please maybe pop £1 in the pot towards the charity to keep us going. We are a charitable organisation, and we do work to improve the lives of vulnerable young people and children. So until next time, thank you very much, Laura, and see you again soon. Bye.